Hi, this is Dr. Toby, your host on Health and Wellness. Thank you for joining us. We have a tremendous show with the Mississippi Organ Recovery Agency and the Louisiana Organ Procurement Agency. Miss Belinda Lane is going to be representing MORA, Mississippi Organ Recovery Agency, and Miss Leah Lopez is going to be representing the Louisiana Organ Procurement Agency. They're going to be telling us what they do, the benefits of organ transplant, and how you can be a blessing to somebody even after you have died. I want to use the opportunity to invite you to our Holy Ghost night on the last Fridays of every month. We're going to be meeting May 26th. We're going to meet at 11 p.m. at the Oyo Hotel. Look us up on our Facebook and our WhatsApp, on our website, www.faithandpower.online. You will be blessed. Pick up a copy of my new books, Assertive Initiative, Gracing Favor. Those books will change your life. Jesus is Lord. God bless you. Hi, this is Dr. Toby, your host on Health and Wellness. What a pleasure, what a delight to have you on our show today. We have a special guest all the way from Flowood, Mississippi. Miss Belinda Lane, one of the community outreach coordinators with the Mississippi Organ Recovery Agency, is with us talking about organ donation, organ procurement, and how to save lives even when somebody passes on. Yes, you heard me correctly. You can be a savior even after you've passed away. And how else to leave a legacy after your death than through the organs that you donated to other people. You're welcome on the show, Ms. Belinda. What an honor to have you
Thank you.
today. Thank you for
Thank you for
coming.
having me.
Real honor, real privilege. And we just want to say thank you for the Mississippi Organ Recovery Agency for the support, for coming all the way. But we're talking here about organ recovery, and the statistics show that more than 170 million Americans are organ donors. But at the same time, only 3 per 1,000 are successfully harvested or procured to give to another person. What is the reason we have so many donors in this donor pool, but not as many get donated or procured to give to people who need it?
So, for one, as you stated, only 300,000 people will pass away in a way that they can actually be an organ donor. And so, for one, the reason that donation is so rare is because a potential donor, first of all, must die in a hospital. The second thing is that a potential donor has to be on a ventilator, and then they have to be brain dead. So sometimes those things kind of create a situation where people cannot be a donor. Also, there are things such as diabetes, cancer, all kinds of health issues that a person might have that will not allow them to be able to be donors. But in many instances, a lot of those folks can still be, some of those folks can still be tissue donors.
I was a family physician working in the city of West Monroe, and I got a phone call in 2017, 2018, maybe 2015 about a young Nigerian male who had died in a fire with his whole family. His wife, his daughter had all died in the fire, and he was still on the ventilator. He was brain dead, and the call was asking us, can we use his organs as an organ donor? I guess he had not put that on his license.
Mm-hmm.
His closest family were in Africa, in Nigeria, and obviously the parents were traumatized. They had sent their son here to be a student, to get a degree, to live the American dream. So at the end of the day, they said they don't want their son's body harvested. And I just wanted to know, in the middle of that kind of emotional turmoil, how does your family outreach group handle that? Somebody whose wife, daughter, then parents traumatized. Is it difficult to have that conversation?
Well, it is very difficult to have an emotional conversation of that sort, but at the same time, we have social workers on staff. We call them our family care department, and those people are very well trained, very well versed to be able to talk to folks during that particular time. Now, if their religion is against it, of course, we suggest that in at Mora in the transplantation world, we often say that people, most people are donors. Most major religions believe in donation, and that's as far as we can go with the religious aspects. Now, as far as the emotions are concerned, we can talk to people, but at the end of the day, they get to make the final decision about their loved ones.
This is a question I've never gotten the answer, but I just thought you might have helped me here. If if somebody consents to being an organ donor, does it delay the funeral?
Absolutely not. So normally it takes about 4 to 6 hours for those organs to be procured, depending on which organs they are. Usually about 4 to 6 hours, maybe 4 to 8 hours in some instances. But after those organs are procured, that body is released to the funeral home.
Wow, that is amazing. And then we know that in our community there's a lot of hemodialysis, renal transplant, people looking for donors for their kidneys. The latest statistics says the number one organ demanded in the world of organ donation is the kidney, more than 88,000. So that probably has the longest wait list, right?
Well, we can always say it does have a long wait list, but we can't always say when someone will receive those life-saving organs.
Mm.
Um, I share a young man's story from Natchez, Mississippi. He was on the wait list for a week. He received both kidney and pancreas, which is very rare. So sometimes things happen where those others that are on the list with you may not be able to receive those life saving organs for whatever reason. It may not be the right blood type, it may not be the right size. There's several things that have to come into play in order for you to receive those life saving organs. And so he was actually on that list for a week and was able to receive his life-saving organ from an 18-year-old out of Tulane,
And how many
Louisiana.
years has he had that organ
Uh,
since?
well, he just received the pancreas and kidney in on Christmas Day of 2021.
Oh wow,
Christmas Day.
that's one day he'll never forget.
Never forget. He talked about it the other day. I was with him doing a presentation. He talked about it the other day, and he was very modest about it. But I said, well, this is a huge event, so it's
Right.
okay for you to feel emotional about it. Yes.
Tell us a bit about insurance companies. We have patients who are like, if they procure my family's organs, are you guys gonna pay the hospital bills? Are you guys gonna compensate the family? What do we? I'm not saying that there's a transaction, but you and I know that hospitals charge patients, families, insurance companies pay hospitals. So my question is this: what is the relationship between Mora, the insurance company, and the hospitals?
So that I do not muddy the water, I want folks to know that the insurance, there's no payment for folks who are having family members who will be an organ donor. We do not charge anything. There is absolutely no payment. As you said, no transactions, no donations, or any such thing, and no money will be exchanged. The insurance will only pay for what was already taken care of or already being done with their family member. So,
So if my son wants to give me a kidney, he's gonna go to the
well,
hospital.
there's a difference when it's a living
It's a
donor.
living donor,
Yeah,
right?
so there's a difference. There is some payment and some insurance information, Of course, I don't have the details
Right, right.
on how that insurance is going to charge or
Hmm.
anything, but as far as a deceased donor, there is absolutely no
No.
payment made.
All right. Awesome. Awesome.
And donor families don't have to incur any fees from that.
Mm. So I have a statistic here that says about less than 20,000 Americans. There are more than 104,000 Americans waiting for a kidney transplant, and less than 20,000 get a kidney each year. So we know there's a wait
There
list.
is a wait list.
What
Uh,
can we do to reduce that? If you want my audience to be part of the solution, what can we do as a community?
So if you want to reduce that, of course, you can always be a living donor. Sometimes there are people who decide that they want to be a donor to a perfect stranger if they're a match. So, there are folks who say, I'm signing up. We have seen situations like that happen in so many instances. Recently, there were some doctors from, I can't remember what city it was, but they decided that they wanted to sign up and personally donate a kidney to folks that were in need. And people do it all the time. But the other part of that is even if you do not want to be a living donor, which you don't have to be, but you can certainly register to be an organ donor. This will help us in so many ways. Most of us have no idea how we're going to pass away. It could be a fall, it could be a stroke, it could be an aneurysm. All of these things could occur and allow us to be in a position to be an organ donor. And so my thoughts are I was 18. I was 18 years old when I decided that I wanted to be an organ donor.
Wow.
There was no thoughts, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I just knew that I wanted to be able to help somebody else.
Hmm.
And so if you would like to register your decision, you can always register your decision today. You can do it by going to your local driver's license station. You can go to registerme.org. You can go to Mora's website. And in the state of Mississippi, we also register folks when they come to receive their hunting and fishing license.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that. And what I wanted to bring out here, you said it earlier, but I just want to emphasize it. If a person is an organ donor, at their death, they can save 9
They can
lives
save up to 8 lives.
and enhance 75
Absolutely.
others.
They can save up to 8 lives and
Hmm.
enhance or impact over 75 lives with tissue donation. And then there's the eye cornea. So the eye cornea can impact up to 2 people.
Wow. I have a statistic here from the data industry. They said doubling the number of kidney transplants in a year from less than 20,000 to maybe 40,000 could save $14 billion in taxpayers' savings. So, so basically, if we did more transplants, we'll probably save money on our expenses on Medicare for dialysis. So, is it just us as a community that are not given enough kidneys, or is the system? I've heard people say the system is a little bit difficult to navigate, that the transplant world is opaque and nobody knows how this list of patients are listed, that there's no, I've heard this, there's little transparency in the transplant world. And people are saying that that could be the reason why people are not forthcoming in the
Well,
world of transplant. So we're saying we need more transplants. People should come out and give them big donors. But can the UNOS, Mora, LOPA, can they also do things that will make it easier for people to be part of the transplant world?
Well, that is going to be a very tricky situation because you don't want to release everybody's personal information.
Hmm.
So it's there for a reason. It would be equivalent to
HIPAA.
releasing, yes, releasing social security numbers or
Right.
something of that nature. But on a grander scale, one of the things that we can do is register our decision to be an organ donor. And what I always say is, I say, talk to your family about it. The
Hmm.
same way that you talk to your family members about your health, about your wealth, talk to them about your health in the same manner. For instance, when you leave here today, you should tell your wife if you are a registered donor. That way, that's one less thing that she has to deal with,
Deal
or
with.
your children have to deal with if they're in an emotional state where you something has happened and they have to make decisions. So it just makes the situation a whole lot easier.
Tell us a bit about this UNOS list. Is it from Washington D.C.? Is it centralized? Is there a list in the
Well,
real sense of the word?
Well, it is literally an Excel, like a huge Excel spreadsheet
Spreadsheet.
with everybody's information listed there. And it has all of the information that you give to your driver's license station. It has your name, your address, your social security number, your driver's license number, your your height, your weight, all of that information is listed in that UNOS list. But at the same time, as I said earlier, that would be if UNOS were to share out too much of that
Of course.
information, yes, it would certainly break HIPAA laws, and we wouldn't want to do
Hmm.
that. But uh, the overall thing is for the listeners and viewers out there. It's not to focus so much on UNOS, but to focus on how can I help someone
Someone
else.
else, right? And just for those who are listening, UNOS means United, I think,
No,
National Organ
uh-huh.
System, something like that.
Yes.
Okay, awesome. I work at a university hospital that does transplants. This is my question. Does every hospital have to be UNOS certified for you or any of the affiliates of UNOS to walk in there and say we want? Because there are several private hospitals, doctor-owned hospitals. So do you have to have an agreement between UNOS and that hospital to be a possible donor, recipient, transplant center?
Well, that's a good question. That's one that I would have to check in
Hmm.
with some of the other folks in the league of the transplant stations. But um, in most instances, if folks are a registered donor, uh, we don't have any issues anyways. If they're a registered donor, that's a binding contract
Mm.
saying that I want my organs to be donated to someone else to be able to live through them. So what we want to do is just make sure that if you're a registered donor, you won't have any issues with making sure that those organs are donated.
Last question on this issue. If a viewer wants to give $1 million to Mora, is he or her limited
Oh
by that?
no,
You're a not-for-profit, but you
we're
take
all the
donations.
time. We are a non-for-profit entity, and we certainly will take any donations that you have, and I assure you that they will be used very wisely to make sure that we are out there sharing the information that's needed about organ donation.
Okay, that's awesome. And I guess is it tax deductible? Or you don't.
Yeah, yeah. So it's
It's tax deductible
tax
too.
deductible.
Okay,
Yeah,
that's
we have
awesome.
we have people who donate all the time. So you
Oh,
can donate
really?
as little as you want, or you can donate as big as you want. Yeah.
Oh. And what's the relationship between you and the DMV? You said hunters, fishers license. It's just it's a convenient place for people to sign up.
Yes, it's very convenient. So when you go to your driver's license station, in Mississippi we say driver's license station. We don't necessarily have a DMV, but we say driver's license station. And the reason that you can do it is because that's one of those central locations. It's where people come and they apply, and at the driver's license stations, the examiners should be asking the question, "Would you like to be an organ donor?" And so by law, they are supposed to do that. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. And so we certainly hope that if they are not asking the question, that you will be proactive and tell them that you would like to be an organ donor.
This is a very sensitive question, and I know a lot of you are familiar with the story of a Colombian mafia boss who when he tried to escape the law, he hired a doctor to do a face transplant. So my question is this: what are the restrictions in America on international donors? Can
So,
anybody walk in here and just say, I want to give a kidney?
no. So, first of all, let me say this. Please do not believe everything you watch on TV about organ donation. There are a few truths, but there are more myths and there are more things that are not real because it is television, okay?
Right, right.
So, no, no, not everyone can just walk in and say, "Hey, I want a face transplant." It doesn't work like that.
So again, the question is, if somebody wants to be an organ donor, he comes in from across the world, shows up in Mississippi. I want to give my kidney to A, B, C. What are the? Is there a restriction on anybody donating?
There's
A
there's
living donor.
there's protocol that has to be followed, of course. And so, first of all, they're going to have to fill out all the necessary requirements as far as their name, address, social security number. So if they don't have that information, it's going to be very difficult for them to be a donor.
So they should have at least a social security number.
Yes.
Because why I said this is because we have had stories in my country, Nigeria, of very rich, wealthy people whose kids needed kidneys, taking people off the street.
Okay. So we don't want to scare people
Right.
and make them think that that happens in the United States because it does
It
not.
doesn't. Right.
And we
Right.
don't want to
Right.
muddy the water with it because we certainly want people to be okay
Compliant,
and they
ethical.
and we want folks to know that these are not things that are occurring in the United States. We need you to be organ donors. We don't need you to be afraid. We don't need you to pause and throw your hands back and say, "Hey, I don't want to do it because I heard that this was going on." And
Right.
so those are just some of the myths that take place as a result of folks not being willing to be an organ donor.
Thank you. Let's talk to my viewers. A lot of them are church folks.
Okay.
They go to church every Sunday. They worship God, but they've never heard anybody from the pulpit, from the pew, give them a comment on organ donation.
Well, I have to beg to differ with you. I've been in churches where I actually have a friend who's a minister. He is a kidney recipient. I was at my coworker's husband's funeral service a couple of months ago, and from the pulpit, the preacher was stating to folks, please register to be an organ donor
That's
just as
awesome.
he did. And so, with that, most major religions support organ donation, and I say most major religions because most of those major religions are here in the United States, from the United States, and they support organ donation because they believe that allowing this to be your final wish and to do the good for someone else is just something that's the most honorable thing that you could possibly do. So, in those instances, it's very difficult for us to determine how people should worship, and we do respect people's religions. So, if that's something that they choose not to do, there's nothing we can do about it. But we will say that most major religions support organ donation.
Organ donation. A very big question, and this is a major question to me. A young lady sitting behind the glass in a DMV is expected to explain organ donation to a 70-year-old, 40-year-old, you know, young person. Isn't that a little bit expecting too much of that girl or boy behind that glass on the DMV? I mean, do they have answers if those clients have questions? I mean, I don't know what the
We now at Mora we have
instruction is like.
At Mora, we have very good relationships with our examiners. We talk to them, we give them facts, we give them data, we show them a lot of the results
The
of
examiners are at the DMV?
at the DPS stations.
Okay.
Yes. So what we do is we build relationships and we talk to them about the facts of organ
So
donation.
you train them actually.
We do to a degree. It's
Okay.
not a formal training.
Okay.
It's normally quick things that we have to do to just kind of keep their minds focused on what is actually taking place with organ donation. But we do give them a lot of information so that they are able to share out information when they're asked.
And let me just say this to anybody watching. As a physician, I can tell you that organ transplant is a lifelong therapy situation. That means you're going to be taking medicines for the rest of your life. It's a decision that no doctor makes flippantly to put someone on a transplant list. When you put a patient on a transplant list, you have weighed the pros and the cons, and you feel that this patient's benefits outweigh the risks. Because everything, the medicines you're going to take for the rest of your life, the procedure you're going to undertake, has some risks attached to it.
They do.
You
They
know,
have a lot of risk. But for most people, those risks far outweigh
the
them having to go to dialysis or having to endure congestive heart failure. All the things, all the illnesses that they go through.
and you may not know this, but a lot of my patients, it's the money that they think about. They're like, how am I going to pay for this medicine after I get the kidney transplant? How am I going to pay insurance company to have the kidney transplant? And I just want to reassure the viewers that 90% of what you will have to spend after you have a transplant is going to be covered by your insurance. I don't want to say 100% because you can never say 100%,
Right.
but I can assure you that majority and as much as 90% of the cost of the surgery, the cost of the medicines, the cost of seeing your physicians every 3 months, the cost of the labs will be covered by your insurance.
Well, that's good to know.
And if you don't have insurance, the fact that you have a life threatening condition, most likely like dialysis, heart failure, heart transplant, qualifies you for some form of insurance. So I want you to talk to your social worker, talk to somebody in your community, because don't just sit there and say, oh, I don't want to think about it because it's too expensive. It's not true. There's always a solution. Like a friend of mine said, find the problem, face the problem, and finish the problem. Don't just bury your head in the sand. You can get off dialysis. You can get off heart failure medicines. You can become a recipient of a kidney, of a heart, of a liver. You can live healthy lives with a transplant if you are willing to pursue those steps. And that's why we've been talking with Ms. Belinda for the last few weeks. And I know somebody in the community is listening. Next, we're going to have the Louisiana representative with us, Ms. Lopez, and we're going to be talking a bit about what Mississippi and Louisiana can do to even increase the donor numbers. Look forward to seeing you there. Don't forget, Jesus is Lord. God bless you.